everyone to this CU Digital Town Hall, brought to you by Ox, formerly the Credit Service Network. Doug and his group, I believe Doug is here today. Best Innovation Group, my company, Mike, CU Broadcast, which, you had that logo before YouTube really became a big thing. You lucked out on that one. And definitely Member Pass, which is our main sponsor here, and we're thankful to have them. And our special guest today, we're going to have Jed from Pop.io. So we're going to talk a lot about kind of this new normal and what's going on, and how we're going to look at this in the future. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Our town hall format, as always, is that we'll just talk a little bit. Mike and I, the Crayons, if you can, we'd like everybody to just sign in on the chat so we know you're here. Also, so we know you're real. We don't want to be Zoom bombed. So
not good.
If you do that, that would be great.
Yep.
And if it is that you want to talk to someone, if someone is speaking and they have something interesting, and this has happened many times, it's one of the cornerstones of what I'm trying to do here is to connect people. People like Andrew, who when he's not at the stadium is willing to help you out with things and always responds and has done already some great things in helping people with some fraud. Gary Coates from Unitas, Tom, all the folks here. Also with us, John Russo from Pop.io as well. So we've got both folks here. But getting into that, we just encourage you to collaborate and communicate. I think that's our superpower as an industry. And we're going to talk about collaboration sort of in general today. Finally, if there's something that's worthy of a longer discussion, then we flip that over to the hippie mic. And these will be recorded and published on CU Broadcast and the big website. If there's something that you don't want said on the air, please don't say it. But we'd like you to be candid. And if you want to share it and you want to tell us, we'll have it edited out. So if you'll just let us know. Real quickly, if you're looking for chat, so it's so funny. I talk about this every time, but when I first started this, people were just confused by Zoom. And now all of a sudden Zoom is everybody gets it. But just in case you don't, this is it here. You've got this, the chat button, and you click on it and it'll pop out. If you're in full screen, chat will be something where you have to go up to the top and you'll see the view options, and you can sort of get it to pop out that way. So there's a couple different ways you can make chat happen. You can crank out a different panel. You can do the side-by-side mode. So just know that there's options on how you look at things. If you are planning on speaking, let us know. If you have a question, we want you to hop on. We want to get you in the space, but we also will ask that you go ahead and let Melissa know so she can kind of tell me. She's sort of in my ear, letting me know what's going on as we try to work our way through this. Next screen. Okay, so before we get to this, I want to just start with a few things. One, interesting experience today, Mike.
Sure.
I went to the store this morning.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody else is seeing this area, but starting to see lots of outages. No eggs. They told the lady, I asked the lady where the eggs were, and she said that, and I think there may be something to this, I'll get to it in a minute, but she said that whatever the company was that delivers their eggs, they got none. So no biscuit, no this, no that. And then I just did my usual, I think I mentioned this a long time ago, my online shopping. Once I found out that I could have them either bring it out to my car or bring it to my house, I swore never to go into the grocery store again, and that has nothing to do with COVID. I did that before. But today, what happens is if I pick this person, I get a shopper. I don't know if anybody's experienced this, and she'll text me, and like, you know how they do the substitutions? Have you seen that yet? They're not always one for one. Like I don't know if they know this, but mustard and jelly are not like substitutions in my mind. Like, you can't just trade grape jelly for yellow mustard. But what's interesting about it is I believe I kind of base everything I see and sort of how people often ask me, hey, how do you innovate? How do you sort of like, be a futurist in a way? And one of the things that I always do is kind of look at the ground, on the ground around me. And this is a little bothersome because we're not in this phase where folks are hoarding or anything. We're now seeing, I think, production stoppages based on COVID and having to shut down places where there are people together. So my first question, just out to the group here before we get really rolling, has anybody else experienced that in their area? Does San Diego have everything they could ever want?
No, I think we're okay. I mean, you still go to the grocery store, and I do every now and then, and like the toilet paper aisle is still kind of sparse. I mean, it's there, but it's still kind of sparse. Or the pasta aisle, that's kind of sparse. For some reason, people are really loving pasta. But I get what you're saying, John. It could be like the ripple effect from the beginning of the pandemic, because everyone had to stop production, and this was probably the ripple effect of that there's a lack of product out there in various industries. And so I think, but my wife she's like an expert on Amazon Fresh now. And so almost every morning, we have a nice little Christmas delivery of fresh food. So we're okay in that respect as far as San Diego goes, but I'm not sure what's going on in other parts of the country.
Well, one thing I was looking at with the eggs is I was talking to Dr. Clore and Paul Diamandis and those guys, and they are obviously heavily looking at a virus solution. But one thing I don't know if a lot of people know is that the virus, a lot of the vaccines actually have to be created in an egg. And so you need an egg for each vaccine. I was unaware of that.
Egg?
What's that?
A chicken egg?
An actual chicken egg, yeah.
Really?
You need that to cultivate the vaccine.
Okay.
And that was some of the shortage is, which is a good sign. I mean, I'll forego some eggs if we get a vaccine. I'm down.
Yeah.
But it turns out that, but those are the hardest ones to make. That's why you can't, you think, hey, once we figure this out, why can't we, if we could crank out 1 billion cheeseburgers from McDonald's, why can't we make 1 billion vaccines and have them in a drive-through? Well, part of it is the process. There's a couple different ways. And so it's just interesting that may well be that. Oh, and coin shortages. That's the other thing. Gary just mentioned that.
Oh, yeah.
Coin shortages. A lot of stores around here are just saying, look, we're rounding up. If it's $2.9 or $2.79, it's $3 for you, buddy, because we got no coins. I don't know who's collecting all the coins, or if they're not using them, or
what's the reason for that?
I don't know. Hey, Gary, do you know why there are coin shortages?
Hey, John, good to see you.
Yeah. You're in your real deck again. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, no, I'm not here. It's because of supply and demand, from what I understand. When things shut down, there's not as much circulation, is what I'm hearing. And they're encouraging people to bring their coins in to the credit union or the banks to
get them back in circulation.
Get the supply going, I guess. Places where I've had a problem is they would just take my card. They're like, we're not taking cash. We'll only take a card.
Wow.
Interesting. So, I mean, it's just interesting, some of the consequences we're seeing just around the country. And so as things move along. So with that said, just for the good of the order, I see Tom, and he's not in his office. There's a big poster behind him of what is that, a trolley?
Hello, John. That is, this is our London room. My wife is English, as you probably might remember.
Yep.
And so we have this one room set up as a London room. And so that's a poster of a double-decker bus. And I have a closet door I turned into a phone booth.
That's not a phone booth. That's what's it called? A Targus? That's what that is.
Yeah. But I do want to say one thing, if I could. So I was on vacation last week in North Carolina. And as you know, I live in New Jersey. So now I need to quarantine at home, or, also known as sleep at work, for the next 2 weeks. So while I was away, I read about the longest surviving use of the blockchain. So I read a book called The Greatest Knight. It's about this knight, English knight, named William Marshall. He lived from 1147 to 1219. And let me bring it up on my reader. In 1189, he became a lord, and as part of his properties, when he wanted to transfer the property, he wrote up a charter and had this charter, he signed it, and then he had it witnessed by people in his community, like his brother, his cousins, and ally, Jeffrey Fitzpeter, William Fitzpatrick, and Earl, different people. And when I read this, I'm like, that's the blockchain. It's trusted advisors that all will come through and say, yup, you signed that contract and you made this obligation or whatever it happens to be. So there you go. 1189, the first use still surviving of the use of the blockchain.
Of the blockchain. The greatest night, 1189. I was going to say, I thought you were going to say, and then he sold it for Bitcoin, but that seemed a little prescient. But yeah.
Now, John, don't confuse blockchain with Bitcoin. Too many people make that.
I know.
Stretch.
I'm the one that preaches that. Well, great. Well, great to have you. So today, what I wanted to do was I met Jed Taylor here from Pop.io through Vibrant Credit Union, which is Pete Nolte, former CIO of MemberPass and CU Ledger. And, one of the things that fascinated me was, what are we going to do about branches? And, we're in a very different spot than we were when I left for vacation. We've got massive growth again. We're imminent in shutdowns, unless you're in New Jersey, I guess, and New York. And even then, I don't know how long that'll stave off given what we're seeing here. And so how do we pick this up? And, how do we take what we're doing here with Zoom and sort of create that out to the world? So Pete had shared with me we were talking through our Alexa product, the 5 platform, that he wanted to connect that to this platform called Pop.io. And I asked him what it was, and he basically said, look, it's Zoom on steroids. It's Zoom that's specifically built for finance interactions with members via video, which I've said for years is something that needs to be done. So this was interesting to me because I think we're going to have to solve this problem of the branches sooner rather than later, because, I explained it like this the other day. I think I was talking to Glenn Sarvati. He asked me, okay, so, why is it that we haven't done these things? And I said, well, because the video services we currently have, they don't really lend themselves to these types of transactions. It would be a little like trying to take a mortgage application through the teller line. It can be done, but it's not a great way of going. You need some other services in this. And as I dug into Pop.io and looked at this, I saw some things that I thought were very interesting. Specifically the RON, the notary pieces, just a lot of things that I thought, okay, here are the other pieces, parts that you need in order to accomplish this video interaction with someone. So I wanted to talk about that today. And to start off with, I wanted to just do a quick poll. And if everybody wouldn't mind just putting it out there, how many of you have your branches, either go with we're closed, we're half open, or we're all open. We can accept that with your branches. So if you don't mind just popping that in the chat so we can see, how many people, appointment only, I see that, that's a good one. So yeah, if everybody will just kind of go ahead, pop in the state of your branches, I think that would be good for all of us to see real quick in the chat. So Tom, yeah, what branches? Yeah, he's got a TARDIS. I think it's blue though. So, there's appointment only. So we're seeing, just as we take our quick straw poll here of the people that are on this call, not a lot of people have them completely open yet. And I have some worry that even if you are on that path, that you're going to want the appointment service and things like that. So what does that look like and how does that play into it? So from my perspective, I can't see anything better than being able to at least have a video service that would be able to do that. So I wanted to give the platform over to Paul for a little bit. And what I asked him to do, to Jed, what I asked him to do was, hey, I don't want this to be a big sales thing. I want to talk about how this helps to solve COVID things. But if you're interested in this, just like with everybody else we bring on, obviously we'll connect you to Jed. We don't have we're going to get him, get you directly connected. But in the meantime, I wanted to talk a little bit about how they're accomplishing this, and I was very interested in what Vibrant was doing. So Jed, I'll throw it over to you to begin with here. So how is this different than me just using Zoom?
Yeah, I think it's a
or
great place.
Skype?
Great place to start. Everybody's familiar with Zoom and these types of technologies. We've been using them, and sometimes they go down. So John Russo's on here in case I get disconnected. But one of the biggest differences between what we're doing and a Zoom or a Skype or a FaceTime is that we've designed this to be a member-facing solution. And all of these other video solutions you're going to have, everybody has pretty much the same controls. You're on FaceTime, you can both, have the same controls, but with the solution that we've designed, you have a very simple interface for the members, and the video agent or the credit union staff, they have the ability to share and control the overall experience. And so it's a pretty different experience. It's really designed to be focused on this. The other thing that, you guys remember at the beginning of the whole Zoom bloom, so to speak, at the beginning of COVID, is that there started people started realizing that there wasn't enough security on this video. Even on the platform we're using right now, they've made some changes, but it's still not sufficient really for a transaction within a branch. So I think that's probably one of the biggest differences is security, and also the way we've designed it so that it provides a little bit more capabilities for people. The slide that we have here, kind of this title slide, says branch services anywhere. And John, that's kind of what we're trying to do. Are
you seeing that as being like, with the pandemic sort of out here? I mean, you were out there before. Has it blossomed? Are people really, and you serve specifically the financial vertical, right?
Right.
So are you seeing a lot of folks going, hey, I need something beyond this?
Yeah, I think we saw once COVID hit, what's interesting is the second week of March, we started seeing COVID cases. Early March, we started seeing COVID cases in Seattle. The second week, things started spreading. And by the third week, it was a shutdown. We almost had a nationwide shutdown. In that week, we saw the call volume of our existing clients that had already deployed this just grew exponentially. And within a couple of weeks, we had an increased overall call volume by 400%. And I think what's unique, if you're to compare this crisis, so to speak, with the crisis of 2008, I think there's some differences. In 2008, of course, the crisis was caused by the financial, some financial instruments and players. In this one, it was more an external event. And so people really needed to talk to their financial institution about making some adjustments. They were furloughed. They need to do loan repayments. A few weeks later, we had the PPP program, and many of our customers were doing the PPP program. And so they just didn't want to fill something out. There's no form online to say, yeah, I want to defer my payment. Can we restructure this or that? It's a consultation with somebody. And so that's what branches are for. And when those branches closed down, we saw a lot of that traffic moving to video.
So there's a lot of people who just answered that, hey, we're open, but by appointment only, or we're open, but for other things by appointment. Has anybody in the chats or wants to put in the chat or pop up and ask just real quick, and Mike, I see your difference in usage pre-COVID now, which you just mentioned. But
I think Jed answered that, yeah.
Yeah, but is anybody using just Skype or, when you said FaceTime, my first thought was, well, I can change myself into a bear or a lion. Like, I feel like that's a benefit. It's way better looking than the real John. But just out there for the folks on the call, is anybody using these types of services now, and are they experiencing worried about security issues, or have we just not used it because of security issues? Yeah. Like I see, they can walk for teller transactions from Gary. Go ahead. I heard somebody. You either talk or you can type, either way. So I'm going to make Tom talk because I can just make him talk. That's what I like to do. And Andrew. So Tom,
yes, you can.
Yeah. Are you at all looking at video? Are you using it currently? I know you don't have branches, so you may already have something like this.
Yeah, we use, I think it's Live Person, which is within our home banking. And we're looking at their video capability, which is behind home banking. So it's a secured, solves a lot of the problems that Jed's talking about. So it's a secured through the single sign-on where we can do a video chat, because we are digitally oriented. We're not branch based. So we're finding that there's a bigger need to go digital and video rather than just simply, a chat itself.
Yeah. Well, because I remember we used to talk about back in the day that, how you made a loan was looking into the whites of someone's eyes, right?
Right.
And there's still that. I think we may be back to that more than ever, because I don't think that our credit bureaus are going to be useful for much longer, given the 18 million people out of work and whatnot. Andrew, was that you saying something?
No, I wasn't saying anything. We're looking into it as well, but we're just kind of looking at different technologies and vendors right now.
Okay. So
Hey, John, we talked about appointment. One thing that's kind of interesting that we've seen is some people are starting to open up their branch, and they're doing it by appointment only for these types of conversations. I went into my local credit union, and I went to the desk, and they had a big plexiglass thing that they had put right on top of the desk. It was kind of an awkward situation where we're having a conversation through this plexiglass, but it was a very large plexiglass because it was to cover their whole desk.
Mm-hmm.
What we have seen, just to show, let me show a photo here. We have in-branch video rooms as well here on the left. And what we're seeing is some people are doing the appointments, but rather than the appointment to come in to talk to somebody, they can still come into the branch, but they go into a secure, clean, sanitized room. And then they can sit down and talk for 20, 30, 40 minutes in this room and never have that risk of exchanging germs or viruses. In fact, you can go into this room and take your face mask off and literally talk to that loan officer or that mortgage specialist. And that mortgage specialist, could be somewhere where they feel safe. And the mortgage specialist has their mask off as well. So, when people talk about appointments, we're seeing some of that as some of the branches open, but they wanted to open to appointments. But then they're trying to figure out, well, how do we balance the safety of our members and our staff? Because the staff is the ones that's most at risk, because they're seeing somebody and then 30 minutes later they're visiting with somebody else. So how could they protect their staff and make them feel safe and comfortable? So using a little room like that provides a little bit different type of an environment that can help allow people still come into the branch.
Is that a topaz there on the front?
That is, yep.
So you have signature integrated as well. So if they need to sign something.
Yeah, we can look at that demo later on, but yeah, we do signature, and it's more than just communication. Hey, I need to change my password, or hey, can we do this? It's really talking about loans, loan applications, and signatures, those types of things. So yeah, John, we do signatures on all of our platforms, even in the mobile, we do signatures.
See, and that's what struck me. Like, for example, we've been doing a lot of business through Zoom with our organization, but and we don't have as big of a need to the Bank Secrecy Act and things like that. So, but it's a lot of, oh, okay, well, share your screen. Oh, I can't find it. It's on SharePoint. Well, share your screen. Well, somebody put the link, and customers are never gonna. That's just not gonna work. So it's interesting to see that. And then being the innovation guy that I am, and it looks like you already have this, but with our innovation club about 3 years ago, I showed a really cool video of, we did a test with a bunch of the credit members, credit union staff, the CIOs, where we showed different videos of the credit union videos. And we used this thing that was, it was open source at the time, but what it did was it did emotional recognition based on like your eyebrows and things like that. And, we had like a section where there was a puppy that was kind of in danger, and then we saved the puppy. And weirdly enough, Tom O'Shea didn't have just zero, nothing. But everybody else was really sad at that point. And then really happy. So I see that you have something like that. Does that go both ways for both the member and the staff member?
Yeah, most people don't read bullet points on a slide. So John, you're kind of a level above most people. But yeah, we do have the emotional recognition, and we have the facial mapping, exactly what you're describing, John, and it maps the facial emotions of the member and the staff member, and then we have a proprietary algorithm that compares the variation or the difference between those two and the trends of both of those emotions from both parties. And then based on that, we provide coaching or positivity coaching tips for the agent that will appear, such as keep it up, or hey, they appear frustrated, slow down, or you might need to repeat that, or take your time, things like that. And then it also provides to the call center or the video center manager a dashboard where they can see if a call is, going the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
They could potentially intervene or just follow up with the staff member after the call to see how things went. They could even play the call back and say, hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what happened and why did things start spiraling down. But the ultimate goal is that you're moving the member into a positive direction. You're understanding if they're feeling frustrated or confused, and help them with that overall interaction. It's just a goal to help them, or it's a tool to help them make sure that they have a positive interaction for every call.
As I look at this, and I'm doing a project with Blue Credit Union right now, where we're talking about building facial recognition in. I'm actually in the midst of working through some of that, but that seems like that would be, because the problem with facial recognition when it's just a picture is, you can use the picture, but a video really gives, that's the future of facial recognition, is the video. Yeah. To get the multi-quadrants. Seems like that's something also, because one of the other challenges we have in Zoom, as you pointed out with security, is identifying the member, getting them, and that's where we were talking about member pass as well. The combination of those two things, the world's oldest blockchain from Tom, and the using the facial recognition, I could see that really catching on as well. Why don't you go ahead, show us this video real fast, and while you do that, I just want to think about a few things, but I also want to, after we're done there, we'll take some more questions, but we'll throw some other stuff out. So maybe show us the demo here.
Yeah, we'll just do the demo from the mobile.
So, but before we go, Andrew has a good question here. Is the emotional recognition just video, or is there sentiment analysis of the recorded audio?
It's right now, it is just based on the video because it actually maps the facial features. We do have a customer that's downloading the video stream so they can run it through their.
Isn't it Tether that does the sentiment analysis? Andrew, is that what you're using?
Yeah, Tether does that on the call center.
Okay.
Yeah.
Audio.
Yeah, we had people that were downloading the audio so they could run it through post-process.
Makes sense because, wait, there's another question. Will the system reach out and slap the member if they're being a Karen? I think it probably will.
We might need to collaborate with John to kind of figure out some of his robotics, put something in there. I love it.
Remote slapping is something I'm working on. So.
We want to demo. We want to demo that.
No problem. All right, well, take us through here and keep the questions coming, and we'll pack them in here. Mike, I know you've got a few more, but let's watch this and see what it looks like.
Yeah, so this is a little video. We'll walk through the experience on a mobile device.
Before we get there too, normally this would be branded, for the credit union, right? So
good point. Yep, this is obviously a Pop.io. We videoed this on an app we created for, of course, Pop.io.
The one I've been exposed to is Vibrant, and it's Vibrant has a name for their new digital, experience.
Yeah, Vibrant Live or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, it's specific to their digital, and everything's branded in that. Okay.
So the first thing you'll notice is that they have an opportunity to choose how they want to engage. Like I said, this is not password resets. This is to engage with some meaningful collaborative products, so loans and such. Once they connect, they're then routed into a queue, and then based on the availability, they will then select or answer the call, and then they're connected. And of course,
Can
they've
it
got
do, just real quick, can it do speech-based or language-based routing?
for Spanish, and yes, you can do that as well.
Okay.
Yep. So of course, on the top, you have the communication capabilities and the communication controls, basic stuff. On the bottom is the collaboration area, and you'll see how
And
they.
I'm looking at this as a user right now. This is me on like the Unitas website talking to a Unitas representative. That's him on the other
Good
side
point.
there.
Yep. So yeah, this is the member holding the phone, and they're looking at the phone.
Okay.
And this is the member picture in picture. So this would be the member. This would be the credit union staff member that's looking and
And I
visiting.
bet that's the kind of thing I can jump around the page if it's in my way, take my thumb and slam it around.
Yeah. So this can move up and down. Yep.
That way, if there's something I need to see, got it. Okay.
Yep.
Standard.
The bottom portion here is just screen share. I mean, we're doing screen share right now with Zoom. That's not earth shattering, but allows them to communicate, educate, talk about things. They can show brochures. They can also co-browse and look at, web pages if there's content on, different products that you already have on your web page. We'll go ahead and use the web page and bring that up here and look at that together with the member to help them select the product. Once you get to the point where you want to accept the product, that's really where Pop.io is different, because we're getting beyond just the screen sharing capabilities. We're actually talking about exchanging documents. So for example, if they wanted to look at a photo ID or a tax document or proof of income, we enable the camera on the device. They can take a photo of that, upload it to the video agent. The video agent can then see it and then begin the process. And maybe they're starting to do the application or whatever they happen to do. Any type of that documentation can be pulled back and forth. Of course, in branch, you might have a larger scanner, but on the phone, it's pretty easy with just the camera here. And then the bank or the credit union can use their own tools to fill out and provide the forms. The form can then be shared with the member. They can review it together. They can pinch and zoom and kind of ask questions about the application, the rates, all those types of things. And then agree to e-sign consent, and then using the finger on the screen, they can apply their signature. That can then be applied to the document in real time with the agent. The agent can countersign it as well if they choose. And we have the digital signature here with the signature on that document. Then that document then can go back into the image archive system, and so we pass documents back to a lot of different systems and help it make that flow of documentation really simple. One thing that we've done specifically for credit unions is we had a lot of people using this solution to open accounts. And with credit unions, if you're a new member, obviously you need to open an account and you want to fund that account. And so we've enabled check deposit, video check deposit. And this is not to replace remote deposit capture, but this is to allow them in this same session to go ahead and fund that account.
So that could be for used as a pledge for a new member.
Exactly. Yes. And the other thing that we saw during COVID is that people had large check items. They're starting to get some of them that submitted their taxes earlier. They're getting refund checks and things like that. They were too large for RDC. They were able to use video check deposit for those larger items that would not be accepted through RDC. We also see people use this for other types of third-party payments or different types of functions where RDC would happen. But I emphasize this is not to take traffic away from RDC. This is just to do the things that people typically have to drive to a branch to take care of.
So I have a lot of questions. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
First one, do I have to turn on my video
No,
if I'm the member?
no.
Okay.
Now, some credit unions, they will actually say, do you mind turning on your video so I just do the photo ID compare? And so they can turn it on momentarily, but they do not have to have, the member does not have to have their video on.
Good. So this could be done naked. The second thing is, let's say Gary is talking to the member and they're in collections. So can we route them based on like, hey, love to help you with this, but you're also in our collection, so you're going to talk to this person. And let's say the collections person sees they have a brand new 96-inch Samsung curved OLED TV behind them. That's a whole different thing. But can you route based on certain conditions?
We
I
don't.
could see this being important to collections given where we're going, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely the opportunity for them to do a transfer. Once they're connected, they can do transfers and warm transfers to different people within the organization, but we don't do prior to somebody answering the call, routing them to a different queue. In fact, most of our, I wouldn't say most, but a lot of our calls come in somewhat anonymous. It's typically for an interest on a new product or something like that. And so it's the identification sometimes will happen on the call itself. Of course, it can be done inside the mobile app or
Yeah, because that's where
something like that.
that's where Pete's doing it. Is Pete Nolte is Vibrant has it in their home banking. They already know who you are. You've
Right.
already theoretically, if you're that person, which that's a big problem with the credit unions, is that most of us have not sorted out our joints versus our primary members, and they use the same login.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then Gary's got a question, which I'll get to in a minute, but I had another one. So could someone do going back to collections, and I'm going to push on collections a little bit because I remember how this all went in 2008. Is it that someone could also probably use this to do an ACH to make a payment to a loan or something?
Yeah, so wires are actually in the top, as we look at the percentage of what people do on the platform, wire transfers are 1/4, they're actually close to 5% of the transactions. And we actually had a couple of credit unions due to fraud that required all wires to go through this system so they could validate photo ID and ensure, because they had some fraud. And so we had pretty high usage for wire transfers, particularly for that. So there are types of payment methods and things that they can use through the system. Typically, it's for the security on the credit union side. Well, and it protects the members as well.
So interesting because, Gary was just saying, does this connect to core systems? And so that's kind of part and parcel to that, because the core system would be where the ACH would be conducted. And there are some legalities around when you take it. It's interesting though, because I don't know that I don't know that there's a video version. There is a phone version for an over the phone. There's a class code for that, but I'm sure someone on here is an ACH Nacha expert. I don't think there's a class code for taking it over video. I assume they would say it's the same as the phone, but I think it's different. Interesting. Let's talk about core systems for a minute. Gary just asked, are there any particular integrations on the core systems?
Yeah. So
of course, Big helps with that as well. We have lots of experience integrating. So.
Yeah. So right now, we don't typically need to integrate with the host systems. Essentially, what we do is we allow most of our integrations and our interactions are with the LOS system or the core system that's generating the documents.
Yeah.
Exactly. So on the upfront side, it's how do we get the document presented and signed by the member? And then on the back side, how do we get it into the archive systems? And so that's typically where most of our interactions are. We don't require them to change the LOS. We don't require them to, change systems. We just work on them to streamline the process of getting the docs presented and signed, and then into the system of record that they choose to have at the end of the transaction. So yeah, not a lot of core integrations. What we do have though is more integrations with mobile apps, so this experience that we looked at could be a button inside your mobile app. Or SSO integrations or things like that, right? That's probably more what we do. So it's more the document flow integrations and the user experience integrations of where they want that button and the SSO of, to pass those login credentials through.
So quick question on the staff side of things, given that we're seeing a lot more work at home, is this set up for work at home?
So pre-COVID, we had one very brave credit union that had an excellent loan officer that wanted to go on the road and work from their motorhome. So they set up a little station in the motorhome, and we thought they were just brilliant, right? I mean, super creative, but nobody else would touch it. And then COVID happened, and we had our largest customers had all of their lenders working from home, and they were taking video calls from home. And I think there was, they asked them to wear the polos and all of that. But the feedback that we got is that they loved it because they were there and they were providing those services. One of our largest customers up in Idaho, ICCU, they basically had their branch staff, with all the branches closed, they quickly trained them on how to take these video calls, and they went from being an in-branch loan officer to a video loan officer working from home. And so they had, 40 something people working from home, answering these video calls, and helping with the PPP and other types of programs. So it's designed to be pretty simple and light. From the agent side, it is a thin client login, secure login, and it's a hosted system. So from an IT perspective, as long as the IT team can get them access to the lending tools that they need at home, our system easily works from home. And we saw a lot of that. It was very interesting.
So would it be creepy at all if I start a call and then I'm talking to the guy and then I realize like he's behind me outside my window at my house like that? That could be another good collections plan, honestly. That should, then you'd know they were there. No, I think I did this on purpose. I pushed you to come and join us, and didn't have to push hard. But this seems to me like again, you just mentioned something that's very important, which is culture change, right? And you did it in a different way, but it's interesting to me how you have one credit union with one guy in an RV. And, I can remember talking to boards. I remember talking to, Tom, your board, and other boards that, and I said, hey, if you want to get top talent, you're going to have to figure out how to let people work from home. And I might as well have said, hey, the best way for the credit union to survive is for everybody to stick a fork in their eye. It would have been better received. And within a week or so of the pandemic, we all figured it out. So do you think that this is another culture shift that, and my question is this, you're focused on the credit union community. It's something I love about you, so are we. And, obviously this solution would work very well for large banks or whoever's interested. So as you look at this, do you think this is going to become table stakes, a culture shift to where members, they don't know what you ever see the monkey, the grape cucumber experiment with the monkeys? So you give the one monkey and I'll have to show it on the next one, but you give a monkey a cucumber, he's okay with it until he sees the other monkey get a grape. And then he freaks out. He's like, he ain't taking any more cucumbers unless he gets a grape. It's a great thing. Look it up. It's the funniest video you ever see. But it's kind of a similar situation. This is context and comparison where as people see this proliferate, do you think this becomes another culture shift in the market? Look how Zoom's culture shifted.
Yeah, I
Does
think
anybody else see that, out in their communities, if you're on the call, be interested.
Yeah, I really do see a general shift towards digital services. And I think video is a pretty important part of that. And let me just kind of go on a bit of a tangent here. So I think that community FIs, community banks, credit unions, they're competing with fintechs. Last March, a year ago, 49% of unsecured loans were going to fintechs, and credit unions and banks were losing out on some of that business. Their market shares dropped it's cut in half over the past 4 years. And I think things are going to continue to race towards that. And I think the big banks are going to continue to try to dominate the digital conversion discussion. Here's where I think it's a little bit different for credit unions. The thing that sets credit unions apart is their ability to connect with people one-on-one and provide that personalized service. So absolutely, digital conversions and digital solutions are absolutely essential for success. But what sets you apart as a credit union is that personal connection that you have with people. But you can't afford to have branches anymore. And overall, a cultural shift in our society are making people realize that they can do these things other ways. And so that's where I think that's where I hope that Pop.io can help, is that we can help credit unions still be personal, but do it in a way that's effective, convenient, and allows them to thrive in kind of this new culture shift. Because I think things are changing on multiple sides from both the consumers and even the staff members' expectations.
How long does it take to set this up?
We had some people during COVID that we launched within 7 days.
Now, I would assume that doesn't have a lot of integration.
That's with no integration, but
Kinda
we
comes
can go
phase two or
live.
something.
Yeah, we can go live without integrations, and we did.
Yeah.
We did, and then people, went on mobile channels. You have to wait a few days. We had to build some mobile apps and stuff. We had one customer that we had them up and going within just a week. Orwell is probably about 10 days on their mobile app. So it's not a heavy lift from an IT project perspective.
Is it cloud-based or is it something?
Yeah, it's all
where-
cloud-based. It's all cloud-based. Yeah.
So yeah, they're not going to have to buy 60 servers and
Yeah.
Load them into an RV because they can't go into a server farm anymore.
Yeah. And most of them already have, sufficient bandwidth. They don't even have to procure additional bandwidth. So it's a pretty easy lift for most of our credit union customers.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me, like all these big shifts, and they've all been through this sort of catastrophized lens, right? Takeout's a new thing, right? Turns out, food can be pretty good at home. I discovered this thing. It's called Freshly. Freshly is the best thing I've ever found ever. Buy as much Freshly. I don't want any more boxes of raw food. Love you, Mike, but this stuff's all done. I put it in the microwave for 3 minutes and it tastes freaking great and it's perfect. So I think that, necessity is the mother of invention a lot of times. And, the idea that you don't need a full, like I'm assuming the RV guy wasn't traveling around with a Sony A7 and a tripod. He probably only needed his laptop, right?
Exactly. Just his
Okay.
laptop.
What does this do to bandwidth? That's a great question. So, if I've got people out at the end of the branches and, I got this IT guy like Andrew who, he only allows them to have 10, I think, KB, like, just about a dial-up modem. Is it going to cost me a ton on my, or is the video compressed in a way? And
Yeah, it's compressed and it's also dynamic. So if you're in an environment that's restricted, so we had a customer a credit union up in Montana. They says, I don't know if it's going to work here. And so they sent their staff. They didn't have a very big staff, but one day they says, can we just call and just see if it works? So they went all over to their favorite fishing spots and stuff like that one day. And they just started calling, and all of these calls were coming through successful. They're blown away because the technology now allows for things to scale and consume what you have available. But it's typically from a mobile device, it's about 1.5 megabytes per second. And it's not
5G is going to remove that barrier.
5G is going to change these. Yeah,
well, just before it spreads to COVID. And I heard today that the steel thing in the mask, that over your nose, that's a 5G antenna meant to connect to your brain. I heard that from Tom. So, but coming back around, as you said something I think was very important. I asked why I didn't get it. Andrew's reacting to me making fun of him. The idea that a platform like this would sort of be transformational. One thing I think that would be very important, and you just mentioned it, was it'd be nice if you could get routed, if possible, to the same person. Like for me, my first credit union was Suncoast Schools out in Florida because I was a teacher. I've told this story a million times, but I'll tell it again just and be quick. Turns out that when you're a teacher, I thought you got paid all year round. That's why I took the job, because I figured in the summers and Christmas I'd play in my band and I was going to be a rock star. And then summer came around, I didn't get a paycheck. And turned out there were two, I remember clearly on the application, there were two little boxes. One said you get paid this much, one said you get paid this much. I thought it was an IQ test. I chose the larger one. And the other one was the spread over the months. So I got introduced to this lady, Arvis, at the credit union. She helped me with summer skips on my loans, to your point. But then Arvis kind of became the face of Suncoast for me for a long time. And I would go to that branch, even when I moved far away from that branch. I still would go there just to see her because I felt comfortable. Seems like this would be a great tool to do that as well, if possible, to create an algorithm that would allow people, maybe use your emotional thing like, hey, John likes, Jed better than Orange Tie Guy, and deliver. There's so much I could see doing with this, I guess. Is
Yeah, we do
you
have
look at
that
AR
ability.
and
We
what's
do
that?
have that ability where they can actually select their officers, so they can go into loans and look at all of the available loan team members, and they'll say, oh, I really like, talking to Michael. And I talked to Michael last time. I can select Michael again if he's available to take.
What about two people? What if I need to get someone else to help? Oh, hey, I'm going to have to grab somebody from ACH or the wire desk or whatever.
Yeah, so you can bring on 2 staff members. Here's one thing that I think is kind of fun too, is you can bring on 2 members. So for example, I go into the branch and they say, your wife is on this account too. She has to sign it. So I can text my wife, hey, I need you to can you help us out? The video agent can send her
I
a
see where you're
link to
going.
her
This is a
phone.
bad idea.
Boom.
I've worked on this with my wife. No, I just send her something. I say, just sign this. I don't want her getting on the phone and discussing it with somebody.
Okay,
I'm
well,
out on this. No,
all
you
right.
have to do outbound calls to members. Gary just asked that question. Sounds like it does. So you can conference her in.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so she can
Does it have
conference
to be
into that
voice?
call that
Could
we're
be
having.
voice or video.
Yes, video and voice or voice. Yep.
I
Yeah,
just
so it allows them to kind of connect in and complete that transaction, so you don't have to say, oh, great, now I'm gonna have to wait until I can find a time for my wife to come in here too.
so what happens if I give Jason like 1 star?
Well, it will be in the report, so the manager could talk to Jason.
Does it give me a spot to say why I dislike Jason?
So this last page is configurable. So yeah, a lot of different credit unions will have different pages here on the end. In fact, one option is that if they put 5 stars, it will give you an option to record a video and tell the credit union why.
What if I wanted to tip Jason?
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I could give him like COVID points or
Yeah.
something. We've got about 7 minutes left. I want to make sure we get to anybody's questions. I've been trying to ask them as they pop up. But does anybody else, Mike, you got anything? Mike, had you seen this before? Have you worked with?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Popeye. I've been interviewing. I remember when the World Council Credit Union Conference was in
Ireland.
Northern Ireland. I interviewed Gene there.
Yeah.
That was the first time I saw it. And to boot, we did a demo call from Ireland to your offices, I think in Utah or somewhere like
That's
that.
right. Yeah.
And
The
back
guy
then,
got up
nobody
at like
cared.
3 a.m.
3 in the morning. That's right. And it worked
Now,
like
neither
a
of you-
charm.
Yeah, well,
works
neither of you are
perfect.
even allowed in Ireland anymore, for one thing. And back then, nobody cared. I mean, it's weird how it is. I mean, I'm not trying to be weird about it, Jed, but I'm probably right. It just, yeah, that's great, and we'll get to that. But we have other priorities. But now this is maybe the new priority.
This is a priority. I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. We've added tons of customers this past quarter. So it is. It's really accelerated.
And so,
I have a question, John.
yeah. Who is it?
So Jed, can you record the session? So and attach that to, let's say, the loan app, the signed app, or to the check. So if I'm taking an image of the check and I'm going to do an ACH conversion on it to push that through, can I record that session and then link it and store it, like I would store a document into my system?
Yeah. So we have the ability to take the session details, which includes the recording, the video recording, the documents, the signatures, the date time stamp, the IP address the customer is coming from, all that type of information. All of that is in a file that you can bring into your system. Yeah, so it has
You
all
link it
of the
with like a
session
GUID or
details,
something.
including the recording.
Yeah, you just link it with like a GUID or something, or a unique ID. Makes
You
sense.
said I would be able to dial out to a member. If let's say I was talking to a member, had a session, they needed to get their license and nothing happened. I wanted to go push out to them. Could I call out through this, or could I even send them a text with a link to say, hey, let's get your license squared away. Click on my link, it'll bring up the session, and you can shoot me and it'll come right to me, and then you could give me the image of your license.
Yeah,
Funny
you
you said that.
you can do both of those. You can do both.
That's what
of
Jed and I
those.
are working on for our 5 application. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to go, Alexa, connect me with an agent, and it'll text or email you the link, and then it'll connect right to Pop.io.
Yeah, and I think Tom is talking from the agent side where he wants
Right.
them to come to the agent. So yeah, send in a link. There's a link that would be So for example, Jason here, he has a private link that just calls only to him. So they don't go to
Right.
the call queue, they go right to Jason.
Right,
there you go.
right,
Mhm.
right. Like going to My Teller almost, where people,
Yeah.
go and they want to see that person
That's right.
and all. Because we do see that with the, being all digital. This whole session is proof point where you still want that video. You want to see people look at their reactions and look at their engagement, and replace that whites of their eyes with a video screen so you can look in the eye.
And I think if you add in member pass and you add in facial recognition, you've now taken it up a notch from even your branch capability to really do validation.
Yeah. It could even be more secure than the branch experience. That's a good point.
Because people are sort of putting it on there. Do they do some sort of disclosure to let them know that hey, this is going to is there this will be recorded for posterity or whatever?
Yeah, it's for most credit unions, it's a text disclosure. There's actually a couple of them. One is when they're signing in, and one is when they're doing e-sign. So there's a few different spots for disclosure that they can put their language in. So yeah, you've got to take care of some of those types of things. And I think that's one of the, all these little things you've asked about, John, it goes back to your first question. There's a difference between just doing a Zoom call and then all these little details like, well, do you have the disclosure about recording? Do you have the e-sign disclosure? Can you, sign this? And can you get the documents in and out? Can you video record? All these different types of things. That's the culmination of all of those things that you've asked about, John, and we've kind of discussed here is what makes us different than Skype.
What about makeup artists? Like, take a look at Tom. Tom's way shiny. I think we got to do something about that.
That's
my
Outer Banks tan.
But it's funny. Zoom does have a touch up my appearance, but that's something too. There's so much that can be done in cognitive video right now. I'll give you an example, and we'll close with this because we only got a few minutes. But Jed, I think I was telling you about this. I've been working with a company that had built a baby monitoring system that would monitor the temperature and the breathing of the baby, which is something that's really super important if you've got a young child. And you can never feel comfortable. Are they on their back or whatever? And it'll tell you when they roll over. And we had talked to them, and it's someone I'm planning on connecting you with, as you and I had discussed, but I'm sharing this with everybody so they can hear it. But, there could be a chance that, I don't know, we've talked about the ethics of this before, but if the video thing thought you might have COVID, would you want to know as a member? Just like, hey, if all my purchases pointed to me having Hep C and not knowing it, would I want to know? We're going to enter some interesting times, and the data that you get from this, especially video, because it's generally at least 720p, 30 frames a second, is going to be something that is also very valuable for your data analytics in the future, where they're calling from, what kind of, just all of these different things. So the future of this is very bright in my opinion, but it's also, I believe, maybe table stakes. So real quick, Jeb, we're about to walk out of here. Where if somebody wants to, well, obviously, if you want to find out more, you're more than welcome to email me or Melissa or just whatever information you want, send us a note, we'll get you connected. But if they want to go to your website, poke around, how do they find you?
Yep, popio.com, popio.com.
I gotta say, I love your chicken sandwiches. They are fantastic. Big fan of those. Well, that's it for this town hall. I hope you got something out of it. My opinion is that if you're not looking at a service like this, you need to be. I was intrigued because of Jed's, commitment to the credit union industry, but more importantly, that given what we're seeing in the rise of things in Texas and Arizona and Florida, this may need to be expedited for a lot of folks. And so, so far, I've been working with Jed for about 3 or 4 months now, and what I've seen has been great. So that's all I can really tell you is that, and if they weren't technical, Pete would have yelled at them already. So it seems like a good option. That said, I think you have to do something. I think Jeb would say that too. Whether it's us or somebody else, this seems to be something that's really important.
Yep.
All right,
Thanks,
folks.
John. Had a great time.
Yeah, thanks, Jeb, for joining us. Thanks for taking the time.
Thanks
to all my normal guys who show up and everybody else. And we'll be on next week. As I was saying before, I've got some cool people lined up. We're going to talk about some robotics, talk about UVC cleaning, what that looks like. You may need to start talking about UVC cleaning your branches. You might be doing that with drones. Crazy stuff going on. Mike, we're going to get a drone out to you soon.
Can't wait. Can't
I
wait.
knew you'd love it. I knew you'd love it. And the next one of these I'll be doing from my RV. And maybe
Yeah.
we'll use Pop.io. Maybe Jed will give us an account. We'll just switch over to this and I can have everybody
Great
sign
idea.
contracts for products.
Love it. Love it.
All right,
Excellent.
guys. Thanks so much.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, John. See you later.